The Young and the Restless spoilers shock. Over the past several weeks in Genoa City, fans of The Young and the Restless have witnessed the gradual unraveling of what once seemed to be one of the most promising new romances on Newman Ranch Road. At its inception, Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott appeared to share a spark that promised fresh beginnings and mutual growth. Claire, steady, earnest, and possessing an almost old-soul wisdom that belied her youth, had been drawn to Kyle's charisma, the easy confidence he projected as scion of the Abbott empire, and the tantalizing idea that he might be more than the entitlement-ridden son of Jack Abbott. For his part, Kyle seemed energized by Claire's unflinching belief in his potential. She encouraged him to harness his ambition, channel his creative instincts, and shun the petty corporate infighting that so often defined his father's world. In the early days, it felt as if Claire had discovered in Kyle a kindred spirit, a young man yearning to step out from the shadow of Abbott Enterprises and forge his own identity, perhaps even challenge the status quo of Newman and Abbott rivalries. Their early brunches at Society were suffused with optimism. Claire would listen intently as Kyle outlined ambitious marketing plans for a new cosmetics line, and Kyle would hang on Claire's every word as she spoke of integrity, hard work, and standing for something bigger than wealth or pedigree. Yet beneath the glossy veneer of Instagram-ready selfies and red carpet appearances, cracks began to form almost imperceptibly. Kyle's initial efforts at self-improvement, the late nights studying market analytics, the meetings with social media influencers, the experimental product launches, soon gave way to a hunger for shortcuts and high-profile alliances. Rather than focusing on his own growth, Kyle found himself drawn back into the same tired games, power plays against rival brands, clandestine text messages plotting the downfall of Audra Charles, and secret phone calls to industry insiders eager for a scandal to boost their clicks. Claire, who once believed that Kyle's creativity and charm could elevate him above Abbott family politics, watched in mounting horror as he abandoned her core principles for gossip magazines and vendettas. She had warned him early on, get too close to Audra Charles at your own risk. Audra, a savvy entrepreneur launching a boutique cosmetics company with a cult-like social media following, represented everything Claire admired: innovation, authenticity, courage. Claire had hoped that Kyle might learn from Audra's example rather than conspire to destroy her. Instead, Kyle grew obsessed with undermining Audra's fledgling brand, convinced that a well-placed exposé on her so-called manufactured authenticity could secure his own foothold in the fiercely competitive beauty industry. By the time of the fateful breakfast scene last Monday, the novelty of their romance had long since faded, replaced by the awkward tension of unfulfilled promises and unspoken resentments. In a sequence captured on handheld cameras and shared across fan forums, Claire's expression spoke volumes. Lips pressed into a flat line, eyes dark with reproach, jaw clenched as she listened to Kyle brag about his latest scheme. She looked at him with equal parts disappointment and disgust, as though seeing him for the first time, and not the flawed but earnest partner she once believed in. Kyle's smug grin faltered when he caught his reflection in a polished silver toaster, momentarily confronted by the hollow vanity he had become. Gone was the bright-eyed young man eager to stand on his own 2 feet. In his place was a petulant child of privilege, shielded from real consequences by the Abbott name. Claire's discomfort was palpable, radiating from her like heat waves through the cafe. She defined her boundaries then and there. She would no longer be complicit in Kyle's disloyalty or his juvenile power plays. Her gentle encouragement had transformed into a quiet ultimatum: change your ways, or bear the brunt of my disapproval. Within the context of Abbott family politics, Kyle's dissent was hardly surprising to longtime viewers. Jack Abbott, ever the consummate businessman, had no qualms about using his son as a pawn in boardroom battles or as the public face of a product launch, regardless of Kyle's readiness. But at home, Claire had become the moral compass Kyle lacked, and with that role came immense pressure. She believed that he could rise above his upbringing, that his heart was in the right place even if his ego often led him astray. Each time Claire counseled Kyle to channel his energy into creative innovation. Perhaps partnering with Audra rather than plotting her downfall, she glimpsed a fleeting sincerity in his gaze. But that spark grew dimmer with every late-night call to Newman media reporters, with every sly remark about Audra's overhyped brand narrative, and with every time he recited a marketing buzzword he didn't fully understand. His ambition morphed into malice, and Claire found herself mourning not just the loss of a relationship, but the loss of the person she thought Kyle could become. As word of their rift spread through Genoa City's grapevine, Audra Charles herself took notice. In a whispered hallway conversation with her creative director, Audra admitted surprise that Claire had tried to intervene on her behalf, given the mutual adversaries she and Claire's family had in Newman Enterprises. Audra's reaction was measured. She refused to appear vindictive or to gloat at Kyle's public display of arrogance. Yet in private, Audra recognized that Claire's principled stance only underscored her own resilience in the face of corporate sabotage. Audra resolved to carry on, trusting that genuine ingenuity and transparent business practices would ultimately outlast Kyle's attempts at character assassination. Meanwhile, viewers speculated on whether Claire might find solace in new alliances. Perhaps with other young professionals in Genoa City determined to rebuild their own reputations without leaning on family dynasties. Looking ahead, it is clear that this storyline hinges on more than just romantic fallout. It speaks to the core themes of identity, integrity, and the seductive allure of power in a town defined by legacy and ambition. Will Kyle Abbott learn from Claire's faith in his potential, or will he continue down a path of self-destruction fueled by pride and impatience? Can Claire Newman maintain her own moral compass while navigating the treacherous waters of high-stakes relationships and corporate warfare? And what role will Audra Charles play as both cautionary tale and unwitting catalyst in this drama? As season sweeps approach, fans can expect these questions to be answered in scenes of boardroom intrigue, emotional confrontations, and perhaps a redemption arc that tests the limits of forgiveness in a world where appearances and family names often mean everything. One thing is certain, the simmering tension between Claire and Kyle will continue to captivate viewers, reminding us all that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight against our own worst instincts. Over the past several weeks, the budding alliance between Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott has been as much a partnership of intellect as of the heart, and yet it is precisely that blend of business and romance that now threatens to tear them apart. It all began when Audra Charles, a fierce newcomer with a boutique cosmetics line of her own, proposed a daring, head-to-head advertising campaign against Jabot Cosmetics, intending to highlight Audra's brand as the antithesis of mass-market mediocrity. When she floated the idea in a closed-door pitch, her confidence was electric. She envisioned glossy billboards at the crossroads of Genoa City, provocative social media teasers that would frame Abbey Meadows as passé, and guerrilla pop-ups in the ritziest salons. Kyle Abbott, ever eager to prove himself outside his father's shadow, listened intently. He had once dreamed of making his mark by building bridges, but Audra's enthusiasm for competitive warfare struck a chord. Kyle asked for time to consider the implications, ostensibly because he valued Claire's counsel. But in truth, the prospect of waging a corporate skirmish against his family's longtime rival left him exhilarated. Late nights at Jabot's conference rooms turned into clandestine brainstorming sessions with Claire. She sketched out creative angles, he weighed headline-grabbing copy, and together they imagined positioning Jabot as an innovator reclaiming its rightful place at the top of the beauty pyramid. Yet as the plan took shape, so too did a growing sense of unease between them. The thrill of the challenge masked deeper fissures. Claire's insistence on ethical business practices clashed with Kyle's temptation to exploit trade secrets, while Kyle's eagerness to outmaneuver Audra contrasted sharply with Claire's admiration for Audra's genuine passion and integrity. The crucial turning point arrived one crisp morning at Society, where Kyle and Claire met over cappuccinos arranged by Claire's assistant. He unfurled his proposal. A viral video campaign that would expose supposed flaws in Audra's supply chain, insinuate that her artisan buzzwords were mere marketing gimmicks, and redirect customers back to Jabot's polished pedigree. At first, Claire listened respectfully, nodding at the strategic merits. But as Kyle detailed his plan to plant anonymous tips with entertainment blogs, Claire's expression hardened. She saw in Kyle's outline the seeds of deception she had warned him to avoid. Audra, after all, was not a faceless conglomerate. She was a creative entrepreneur who had risked everything on her vision. Claire reminded Kyle of the countless mornings she had urged him to follow his instincts toward collaboration rather than ruthless competition, to draw inspiration from Audra's innovative formulas rather than defame them. Kyle, defensive yet vulnerable, confessed that a part of him envied Audra's freedom to build something of her own, unburdened by legacy. That confession, so raw, so unlike the arrogant swagger he wore in boardrooms, struck Claire in a way she hadn't anticipated. Beneath his scheming lay genuine frustration at being judged perpetually by his father's successes. Suddenly, she realized that the line between ambition and duplicity was thinner than she had ever believed. From that moment on, the relationship took on the weight of an experiment in moral chemistry rather than romantic synergy. They gathered at Jabot's creative studio after hours, poring over graphics, drafting taglines, and debating which narratives would resonate most with Gen Z consumers. Kyle's excitement grew with each secret meeting, yet with it came furtive glances toward Claire, his lover and confidant, searching for approval. Claire, torn between loyalty to Kyle and fidelity to her own principles, found herself slipping into an uneasy half-smile. She wanted to believe that Kyle could temper his aggressive instincts, that he would recalibrate the campaign to focus on Jabot's heritage and commitment to ethical sourcing rather than subterfuge. But as days passed, she noticed subtle shifts in his behavior, the smug satisfaction in his texts when a tentative leak to a blogger caused a spike in web traffic, the hushed, triumphant tone in his voicemail when Jabot's stock rose a fraction of a point. In those moments, Claire recognized the same self-centered bravado that had first drawn her admiration in adolescence, a charisma tinged with entitlement. It seemed that the very ambition she had once encouraged was now consuming him, eroding the mutual respect that had been the bedrock of their bond. Their shared plan, once a testament to what two young innovators could achieve together, began to reveal its true stakes. Would they align as co-conspirators in a brand war, or would Claire's steadfast integrity ultimately trump Kyle's hunger for quick wins? The tension reached its apex on a rainy Friday evening when Claire confronted Kyle in the dimly lit hall of Jabot's offices. She held up a dossier of media clippings, anonymous op-eds, clickbait headlines, and speculative rumors, all meticulously traced back to their own scheming. "This is who we've become," she whispered, voice trembling. "Is this the legacy you want to carve out with me at your side, or is it just another facade?" Kyle's eyes flickered with remorse and defiance in equal measure. He admitted that he had crossed a line he never intended to cross, blinded by the allure of beating Audra at her own game. He swore he could reel it back, pivot to a more honorable approach, yet Claire knew in her heart that the line had been shattered. The question now was whether their romance, founded on shared dreams of innovation, could withstand the fallout of deceit. As whispers of their internal discord spread through Genoa City's social and corporate circles, Audra Charles remained an intriguing figure of resilience. Word reached her that Claire Newman had once tried to broker a more collaborative effort, that Claire had urged Kyle to see Audra as an ally rather than an opponent. Audra, ever the tactician, chose not to flaunt this knowledge. Instead, she strengthened her own marketing narrative, one of authenticity, vulnerability, and creative fearlessness. In doing so, she highlighted the contrast between her own transparent methodology and the shadow games unfolding at Jabot. Viewers and industry insiders alike speculated. Would Claire, disillusioned by Kyle's reversal of the moral compass she had helped him hone, choose to abandon him in favor of a new partnership built on trust? Would Kyle, facing the loss of Claire's unwavering support, recognize that true influence in the cosmetics world derived not from sensational headlines but from genuine relationships and brand integrity? Most pressingly, could their relationship survive the very plan that was meant to secure their professional triumph? Or would the romantic fragility of adolescence finally give way to the cold calculus of business expediency? In the coming weeks, as the campaign launches and the ad war erupts in full force, The answers to these questions will play out in a series of high-stakes boardroom confrontations, emotionally charged confrontations at society brunches, and the inevitable public reckoning on social media. Will Claire stand by Kyle to weather the storm of his own making, believing that redemption is still within reach? Or will she rise above the fray, cutting ties with the man who sacrificed their shared ideals for fleeting glory? Meanwhile, Kyle must decide whether to repair the damage by retracting the dubious elements of his plan, an act that could be perceived as weakness by his peers, or to double down, risking everything he holds dear for the promise of outshining a rival he both admires and resents. As Genoa City watches, the romance that once held so much promise may well become the crucible in which Kyle's true character is forged, and in which Claire's own convictions are tested like never before.